Walkabouter's Guide.
Hi. Everybody, John Lennon. Is now going to be on. John Lennon. Lennon, everybody.
It's getting hard to be someone, but it all works out. It doesn't matter much to me.
John Lennon was the greatest human being who ever was. Now, before you say, how can you say something like that? He was also a regular broken fella who succeeded in fixing himself and the world. He left the world in better shape than he had found it in. A circle, I think. You can see it in his eyes, especially as a boy. He knew what he was meant to be.
But I used to think when I was a kid, writing my poetry and doing my paintings. I didn't become something when the Beatles made it or when you heard about me. I've been like this all my life.
He was born in war-torn Liverpool to Julia and Alfred. Alfred wasn't there. Julia was, funny enough. She taught him to play the banjo before being run over by a drunk policeman. With a deadbeat father and a dead mother, a contempt for authority grew inside young John. The banjo was his only positive thing. Thankfully, for everybody not from the deep south, he traded it in for a guitar. Playing with his mates at a school fete in 1958, he met Paul McCartney, who was also keen on non-banjoed music.
It was John's group, which were originally called the Quarrymen. And John was on guitar. He had a kind of checked shirt on and his hair back, sort of looking quite groovy, the old greased back hair. He was singing a song called Come Go With Me, the Del Vikings. Go, little darling, come and go with me now, love you, darling. And later we went backstage.
And we met and we talked after the show. And I saw he had talent and he was playing guitar backstage.
It was just two acoustic guitars. He had one, I had one. We'd just sit down opposite each other. Nice thing about it is I could look at his guitar and I could see myself playing, in a way. It was like looking in a mirror. It was like looking at yourself and looking at your own thoughts. And we got to singing there. And
it's sort of the same. I love you.
And I turned around to him right then on first meeting and said, do you want to join the group? And he said, And I think he said yes.
You go, oh, yeah.
Paul introduced me to George, and Paul and I had to make the decision, I had to make the decision whether to let George in. And I listened to him play and said, play raunchy or whatever the old story is. I said, okay, you come in, and that was the three of us then, and then the rest of the group was thrown out gradually, Now, George came through Paul, and Ringo came through George.
And, I remember people saying, oh, I don't think Lennon likes me. And I said, why? Because the way he looked at me, well, he looks at you like that because he hasn't got his glasses on, he can't see anything.
It was hard to spot John, so let's have a footage of him just by himself, okay, without the other Beatles. Now, John without the other Beatles is on now.
I was in the middle of a trough in Help, but you can't see it really. I mean, I'm singing Help for a kick-off,
When I was younger, so much younger than today.
But it was less noticeable because you you're protected by the image of the power of the Beatles.
There must have been a Beatles power outage when John mentioned in passing that the Beatles were better musicians than God.
No, I'm not saying that we're better or greater or comparing us with Jesus Christ as a person or God as a thing or whatever it is.
After the Ku Klux Klan were burning Beatle records and I was, held up as a Satanist or something.
Beatle record sales then soared and they went to #1, thanks to the Klan.
Then we decided no more touring, that's enough of that. I'm not going to put up with it.
With no more tours, the Beatles focused on studio work.
John Lennon then began to experiment using drugs to get good songs and music. Here's one of the results.
I am the Walrus.
I am the Eggman. They are the Eggmen. I am the Walrus. Goo-goo-goo-goo.
The Walrus community took offence, and the Walruses then had a record burning. They burnt 2,000 albums. That was the record. Scared of what the cow-like sea monsters might burn next, John shifted the heat away from himself. Cleverly. So John, how long were you and Paul together for?
Paul and I were together since he was 15, I was 16. No, it's a long, long time. The four of us have been together. And what happened was, through boredom and through just the too much of everything, and Epstein was dead and people were bothering us with business, the whole pressure of it finally got to us. So, like people do when they're together, they start picking on each other. It was like, it's because of you'd got the tambourine wrong that my whole life is a misery. It became petty. We couldn't play the game anymore. We could see through each other.
John then hooked up with a girl named Yoko Ono, and he ditched his first wife for her and married her. Here's some footage of them. Footage of them now. Okay, here's the problem. I left my remote over there, I need to go get it. So I'm just going to go walk out of the scene and then the tape's going to stop then, okay? I have no time to edit it all out, so you're going to see nothing here for a little while, okay? So just let me go and stop the tape so then you can see the footage of Yoko Ono and John Lennon. Thank you very much for your cooperation. I am now going to do what I just stated earlier. Thank you.
There's this fantastic Japanese girl coming from New York, and it's going to be this big event, and something about black bags, and I thought, ooh, orgies, So I go right down there, for the opening, goody, goes down, see what's happening. I get there, it's all white and quiet, and there's just these strange things all on display, like an apple on a stand for £200 or something, or whatever. I went with Paul, and I don't know who she was with, but I got separated from Paul, and
Which way did John go?
I felt this sort of vibe behind me, and I looked round, and there she was, She's ignoring me, So he introduced us, and I said, well, where's the event, where's the happening? Because I'd seen the bag. So she just takes the card out and gives it, and it just says, breathe. So I said, you mean that? She said, you got it. Well, what else are you going to do? That was the big event, all the way from New York for that. And we looked at each other like, that sort of, something went on.
I think, when Yoko came along, that was the signal, really. And he was ready for some fun. He was ready for a run. And, it was in danger of becoming the Yoko show. I mean, let's face it, to this day, that's a danger.
Well, because of Yoko Ono, the Beatles later split up.
And when a new artist came into the group, there was never allowed. We were fed up with the same old. We were discussing something in the office with Paul, and Paul was saying something or other, like to do something, or...
We're doing a live show, and we're doing it in Arabia.
Where's it? Yeah.
So, like, I'll tell you what then, I'll come in with you, as long as you can get a couple of boats, like the QE2.
And you're going to go there on the boat as well?
I mean, if we're on a boat in Arabia.
And then on top of that, we're stuck with a bloody big boatload of people for 2 weeks. You know, I mean, at least you can go home from it, you can get away from it all.
I'll be watching telly.
I think the idea of the boat is completely insane.
Now, John would like to say a few words on the subject.
I'd like to say that I like the intimate idea, rather than a large one. Simply because we should concentrate on the sound. We should concentrate on the sound.
No, well, we should sort of organise our career now.
Yeah.
Get our career together.
And I kept saying no to everything he said, you see. So it came to a point I had to say something. Now Paul said, well, what do you mean then? So I said, I mean, the group's over, I'm leaving.
How did Paul take it?
Well, I mean, like anybody, when you say divorce, you know, the face goes all sorts of colours. It's like he knew really that this was the final, putting out an album, and I'm leaving the group too, he said. I said, good, you know, I was a little, you know, feeling a little strange, because he was saying it this time, you know. And I said, good, you know, because he was the one that wanted the Beatles most.
And John went on to write his own songs, such as this one.
Imagine all the people
Paul wrote,
I've waited all my life for you. Hold me tight.
and George wrote,
My sweet Lord.
and Ringo wrote a letter. John and Paul also wrote about one another, in fact.
Oh, hell's bells. Well, I mean, listen to Ram, folks. The lyrics weren't printed. Just listen to it. I'm answering Ram. We believe that we can't be wrong. That was your first mistake to do. You took your lucky break and broke it in two. Whose lucky break?
Now what can be done for you?
Yeah, too many people preaching practices, so don't let them tell you what you want to be, you know, yeah. That was what John and Yoko were doing to the world. You must be like this, you must be like this. So I was kind of talking to kids, saying, you don't have to listen to them.
So Sergeant Pepper took you by surprise. The only thing you done was yesterday. And since you're gone, you're just another day. It's just another day.
In the olden days, communism was a scary thing, and it was trickling down Vietnam. President Kennedy was opposed to a full-blown invasion of Vietnam, but after he was knocked off by a disgruntled schoolbook depository worker and the CIA, the next president invaded Vietnam.
Is a warm gun.
Now we come to the greatest thing John Lennon ever did, besides I Am the Walrus. He stopped the Vietnam War. Don't believe me? While sleeping in one morning, he wrote a song called Give Peace a Chance to End the War.
All we are saying, give peace a chance. You get the message?
A million protesters took his song to Nixon's front yard.
Are you listening, Nixon? Oh,
After lunch,
that we today have concluded an agreement to end the war and bring peace with honor in Vietnam.
John was coming home to see his son Shaun when he was shot. Because of a little fat man and his gun. But John lives on in all of us.
No matter what's happening, though John's dead, I don't feel like we are ever going to be apart. I think we're a part of each other's lives, we're a part of each other's karma, man.
And if I said I really knew you well, what would your answer be? If you were here today.
I'll leave you with this question. Do we really need guns in the world? Show me anything good a gun has ever done, and I'll show you a liar.